They were like, we can't afford it anymore. I'm sure it was one of those post-COVID, like, now the rent's going back up things.
Yeah, the rent stuff has been very tumultuous in all the big cities.
Yeah.
A lot of swings back and forth, both, you know.
Luckily, I live in gang territory, so I don't really have to deal with that.
On the way in.
Yeah, do you see some of the signage?
I mean, I live in Hollywood, so, you know, I don't even notice the
You're not in the
graffiti.
safety mecca of Hollywood.
No, I'm like right in the thick of everything. But no, definitely coming in, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
You're here.
We didn't know when we moved in because we didn't like, this is a thing that I think maybe it comes up when you have kids or something. I've never moved anywhere. I've lived so many places. I've never moved somewhere and been like, let's really drive around the neighborhood and scope out the neighborhood. I'm like, let's check out the building. Like, you know, unless something's glaringly obvious and things look fucked up, like post-apocalypse, I'm never like, let's really look around the neighborhood and see who lives here and what's going on. That's always felt almost a little profile-y to me. I'm like, I don't care who my neighbors are. We'll figure it out.
If they're cool.
Yeah, but I didn't know. And then I got here and I had a fucking Grubhub driver who was like, meet me at the laundromat down the block for real. And I was like, what? And he was like, I'm not going into gang territory, man. And I was like, I've lived here a year and a half. What do you mean
good deal on the place?
And apparently it's a real steal because of that. Pun intended.
Well, yeah. I got a good deal in my apartment.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did pretty good.
Is it because, are you above and below a crack den, or is there a reason?
No, I just manifested it straight up.
Just put it out into the universe?
I wrote down on a sheet of paper, this is what I want, this is the most I can pay. You figure it out. And then of course I like went and I like toured apartments and stuff, and I'd be like, it's just not what was on the list, man. And I would go from one to the other and it would just be like, it's close, but it's not what's on my list. And then when I found this place and I was like, this is too fucking good to be true. There's no way. There's got to be like somebody buried in the, like under the floorboards.
That was my last place, the one you came to in Silver Lake.
Oh, right.
It was like huge.
Yeah.
And had like a view of downtown and all
like
this
awesome
shit. Yeah, it was banging. And it was the third place me and Joe Flanders looked at when we were shopping. Mm-hmm. And we were like, looking at the price tag.
Like, what's wrong here?
Right. What the fuck? And we found out over time, I can't imagine why this wouldn't have lowered the rate. It was a terrible company. Like the place that managed it was horrific. We ended up suing them for our security deposit on the way out. It was a nightmare. But I never really found out why we got such a deal on it. They raised our rent a couple times while we were there, but we never went ahead of like, it's a 3-bedroom and each room never pulled more than like $1,100 from each of us. Before, when our first rent, 2 of us, because we had different rates because people had different like bathroom situations and stuff, 2 of us had less than $1,000 a month going into it, which even in like 2016, that was like, for that place, it was massive.
I think that whenever people are like shopping for apartments or they're like looking to move and stuff, I just notice how like negative people can be about it. And they're like, I'm never going to find something. I'm like, dude, I've had great luck out here. You just got to pull your head out of your ass. You got to know what you want. And if you can have a little bit of wiggle room time wise.
That's crucial. And I think people get exhausted from going. They go to the 4th place and they're like, I don't want to look anymore.
Yeah, it's like, I get it. But there's like no excuses. There's places all over LA. And I think that as expensive as LA is, there's still like, you can, like your situation, like you can find situations that are not that bad. But living in a studio for the last 3 years, I'm like, I want some space.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Too tight?
I mean, it's fine. Excuse me. Sorry. It's fine. For one person, it's great. It's just like at a certain point in my life, like I'm like, okay, I'd like to have some like guests over maybe. Or
we have that problem here. Last place I was like, I can house a family of 4 in the living room. Now people are like, can I sleep on your couch? And I'm like, it's a regular sized couch in our living room that like, I get up and work in the morning. And so you're not going to have a lot of like, you're not going to have a door. You're not going to have a bathroom.
My mom came and visited me and stayed with me.
How did that go?
2 weeks ago. I was on an air mattress. I gave her my bed. So it was tight.
And a mattress like right next to the bed? Pretty
much. I mean, no, I had like a coffee table like between us. I was actually surprised that I even could get an air mattress in there.
Sure.
So I was like, okay.
I feel like I've seen your place on social. It's not like It's not tiny.
No. It's not like a bachelor or anything like it's a full size studio. And I've like organized it well, but there's like I've reached the limit, like at this point, if I buy new clothes, I have to get rid of other clothes. Like there's no more room here. Under the bed is, stacked full of storage. Under the couch, stacked full of storage. And it's not cluttered. Like I'm not in there like stressed out. Like, oh my God, I have so much shit in here. It's not like that.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, man, it would be nice to have like a closet, like a real closet.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm at the point where I'm like, I can if I want to. Like I have the money. I can leave at any point. I've been here 3 years. It's just a matter of like, timing and like finding it and everything.
You're
also,
staying in LA?
Yeah, I'm in Hollywood.
But like your notion to like move around, you're not like thinking of leaving the city or anything?
I mean, no. I think the only other place I think I'd ever live in is probably New York. I don't. During the pandemic, the only thing I kind of kicked myself is not going and living in Austin during the pandemic, just because I went down there in April, like the vaccine had just come out.
Right.
And then we went down, me and some girls went down to Austin to do comedy, and it was like so much fucking fun. And the whole time, because I mean, obviously I took precautions during the pandemic, but I personally wasn't like freaking out about it. And I was like, man, this would have been a really great place for me to live, because LA was very freaking out about it.
I almost bought a house down there in like 2020. I was like, maybe now's the time. Maybe. And I more than anything wish I would have bought a house right when I moved there at the end of 2019. Because then I could have waited a year and sold it for twice the fucking money.
It skyrocketed.
Insane.
But yeah. Are we recording?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because
I try to be as seamless as I can.
That's great. No, I really appreciate that. Because I did, this kind of plays into what I know generally what we, wanted to talk about, which was, I mean, this is just like such an obvious statement, but like the pandemic really changed so many things. And I knew it was going to. I mean, it was changing a lot of things in that experience. But now that we're yes, I know the pandemic is still here, or COVID still exists.
Don't be precious.
I don't want to split hairs here. Okay,
split as much as you want. I say it's over all the time.
It's just
because it's not happening like it was happening, and I think that's worth saying out loud.
It's not a crisis,
right? We're not locked down. We're not really worried about being locked down again. You mostly can walk around, and if you beamed down from another planet today, and you walked around even New York or LA, you might be like, I feel like there's a couple people wearing masks. Is it pollution? Yeah. Did pollution get it?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no, a thing happened a couple years ago. Like, it's not like if you showed up in 2020, it's just not the same. You could get away with being like, it's not really happening like it was happening.
It's, I know that it still exists, like it's still there, but we're living with it now.
Right.
And so we've adapted to it. We're coping. We're coping with COVID or whatever. But I think what's been interesting for me, just on a personal note, I'm a single person. There's just been me in my studio. So it's been very much a great time for me to spend time reflecting, and also just paying attention to my own personal life. Now that the lockdown is over and we've adapted and everything, I'm starting to now really start seeing the second wave, third wave kind of repercussions of this. Like, obviously being locked down, there's all these repercussions about that. I remember being very claustrophobic, and I
was living with my dad.
Yeah. Stuff like that. Either you're stuck with somebody that you don't want to be stuck with, or I was so alone, and I was like, I wish I was stuck with somebody. And there's this stuff that was immediately happening in the moment that obviously was really traumatic. But then now we're there's these waves afterwards that are coming that, it's hey, that was actually a really traumatic event. And it's going to have an effect. It's there for every action, there's a reaction. So there's going to be consequences to this experience. And now we're in that kids who were, in lockdown with no social interaction.
The data on stuff that's coming out now is so, I get a little heated, so I have to pump my brakes a little bit to not start yelling. But to point this out, we're talking about bouncing between LA and Austin earlier. Mm-hmm. I've lived in LA for many years. And before that, I was living in New York. I've been out of Austin for a long time. I've been out of Texas and that culture and that politics and that idea, even though that's where I'm from, for a long time. And not only that, we went to school of the arts. It's very liberal, very left, very everything progressive. I'm marching for Bernie Sanders and all this stuff. And then and proud to kind of have, I don't want to say escaped, but to not have the Texas culture and politics constantly be my shit. And I could not have been more grateful, even though I was stuck in a 2-bedroom apartment with my dad, who I love, but he's my dad.
Yep.
Even though I was stuck there, I could not have been happier to be in Austin during the lockdowns and stuff, because as much as everyone was talking shit about like Texas and Florida and you guys are running wild, man, I ran a fucking comedy club and like we weren't really getting sick and we weren't really having problems. We were living our lives. We were making money. Well, I wasn't making money because I didn't fucking
Somebody
make any
was
money
making
from that.
money.
Somebody was making money. The comics. And that's a big thing you hear too about comedians saying like there were places where we could still work. Some places would let us still go to work. We only got our first major headliner, which we booked Mark Normand in the December of 2020. And we only booked him because fucking Washington State canceled his gig because of lockdown stuff. It like opened up a little bit in the fall. They started booking again. And then they got scared because the winter numbers started to spike. They shut it all down again.
God, the spikes. I remember that.
Yeah.
It's
and it was
spiking!
like, we're back. We're back. Yeah. Everyone's freaking out. And I couldn't have been more thankful to have been in Texas, because I was like, at least this, I'm sorry, it felt like a rational response. We were doing temperatures, we were wearing masks indoors, we were trying to be preventative, but we weren't like, let's do 2 years in the hole.
I know, and like there's still people, and I try not to, because I know people have like conditions and stuff that I don't know about, but there's still people who are not like fucking Howard Stern, like he just left his house for the first time.
What?
Like
that doesn't
2 weeks
surprise
ago.
me. He barely leaves from behind his bangs most of the time.
Yeah, I think that's why, because he's got some phobias, but
he does seem a little agoraphobic. Like even his studio, which is always crazy to me. He has like a little like cavey pedestal, and then someone's like 12 feet away on a couch, and he's like, so you tell me about the fucking
He's definitely
he's an interesting fella in that way.
But I mean, maybe not to that degree, but there's been there's a lot of people I think that are still doing that,
wearing masks outside. No one's 200 feet around them.
I'm like,
that's
the
wild
only
to
time
me.
that whenever I see that, I'm like, I hope you have COVID right now.
I was
I hope you have COVID right now.
I assume they do,
because otherwise,
how scared is your life?
I know, and that's really what it comes down to. But again, like, I'm not saying talking about all this stuff because I really at the end of the day give a shit what other people are. I'm like, hey, if that makes you feel better, okay.
But it feels like the pulse of society. Like you're like, that's where we're at.
Definitely
so that
in California.
People,
and I mean, that was part of the thing was that here, I really did feel kind of this like mob mentality when I was here, that I just didn't speak out against it. I didn't, hey, maybe we just wash our hands and it'll be okay. Like,
we don't want to get drawn and quartered.
Yeah, no. I wasn't like going there. I was just, and I really did just like keep to myself, and, had a lot of time alone. And, man, the thing was that before the pandemic, I had no life, but I was just working.
Right.
And granted, some of it was because of financial reasons, like I had bills to pay, and I worked at the Laugh Factory.
That was about the time you were on the show last time.
Yeah.
It was late 2019.
Yeah. I was at the Laugh Factory from 2018 to 2021. So
through it.
Yeah. I was there. In fact, it wasn't until we were allowed to go. It was like 6 months after we were allowed to get back into the office is when they asked me to come back into the office. It was like 6 months after. So it was like really random. I'm like, why are you making me come in all of a sudden? Like, what's wrong? And they couldn't give me an answer. And so I kind of fought them on it. Like, why are you making me come into the office? Oh, we're not happy with your performance. Do you even know what I do here?
Is that what they said?
They said they weren't satisfied with my performance working from home. And I was like, this is the first time I shouldn't be probably talking about this.
No, but
it was definitely like, I was like, wait, what? It was just really weird to out of the seemingly the blue to ask me to come back to the office. I went in for like 2-3 days and then they laid me off. So I don't know what they're thinking.
That feels like that was their plan.
I think so, but all of it was, I mean, and of course I'm not surprised by this because this was pretty apropos for like how things went. But I was just like, what? You could have laid me off during the whole pandemic.
Right.
During the whole pandemic.
When you guys were hurting more.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was some PPP stuff or something where they didn't, I don't know. But yeah, I was working for them during the whole pandemic, like working from home.
Which truthfully, if I remember what you're doing like social media content for them, right? That was a lot of what you're doing?
No.
Or no?
So
I remember you doing like editing and stuff for them. Is that not true?
during the pandemic, no.
Oh, so it shifted when things shut down.
Yeah. Basically, right before the pandemic, we got a new hire who was like above me. And I think he just wanted to do things his way. And so there was definitely a little bit of headbutting with what I did. And, and it's tough. I don't know what it is about social media, but like everybody especially people that aren't even from this generation of social media. It's like older people, they think that they know better. And I'm like, other than getting you guys 1.6 million followers, like what else do I have to do to get you guys to realize like I know what I'm doing here? And, so when the pandemic hit, they basically they're like, hey, do you either want to get laid off or do you want to do like data management? And at the time,
so you're doing more clerical shit.
Basically like just entering numbers into a spreadsheet. And I was like,
how do you disappoint someone with your performance at that? Like did you
that's
do
why
all your
it was
numbers?
Absurd. That's why it was absurd.
Did you do all the numbers they asked you to do?
Let's not get this on camera. Okay. Rob?
All right. But you brought it up. I'm just asking.
No, I know. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, yes, I'll say yes. I mean, I did more than enough work for what, what they needed and provided support and did all this stuff.
Got it.
But yeah, I was just, and then near the end of the pandemic, when they asked me to come back in, they're like, hey, we want you to be in charge of social media again. And I was like, I was waiting for that. I was wondering when that was going to happen, when you're going to realize that you guys don't know what you're doing.
That you have value there.
Yeah, and you guys don't know what you're doing. And so, they're like, we do want you to come back. We want you to make content, and, all this stuff, which is great in theory. There's so much stuff that I could have done there.
Yeah.
They had no budget. They gave me no support, no money, no equipment. I'm like, so how is this supposed to happen if I don't have any, anything to do?
Yeah.
But I think that was also what was so frustrating about it was like, I saw so much potential there because there's comedians there every day. Like we could be like a little MTV, like have content on anyway. So it was kind of a bummer in that regard.
I've been people can go dig up other interviews of me talking about this, but I so relate to that. I've been to so many jobs and I've worked, I mean, even not jobs. I fucking the Fourth Wall comedy theater in North Hollywood.
Yep.
I did the same thing.
Yep.
It was like there. And it's something about, and I love this so much that you're bringing this up, and especially hearing that it happened even at a place like that, because it is proof to me that there is a disconnect there between, I don't know if it's just something in live performances, because the fucking theater industry has this problem too, where it feels like there are people who come along in a place where live stuff happens, and they're like, that there's stuff outside this room that you can do in this room to bring your stuff outside this room that will bring then people inside this room. It happens at the theater. It happened for me at the Fourth Wall. It sounds like your story.
And stuff?
Well, yeah, and just the use of social media, the creation of content. I'm like, you have a whole back room with the podcast studio, but you're just putting an ad on your social saying, hey, you want to do a podcast? Come do it. Stop asking. Start grabbing comics that you know are talented that could be doing this. Help curate them into making a piece every week, chop that up into short form stuff that drives to the long form stuff. And at the end of it, it's like, hey, come by the place. It's like, it is marketing, but it's more than just, the marketing stuff is what's boring to me. The stuff that I love is the creation of that new shit, sitting around with the other creative people going, what else could we be doing here that would be driving people into this place?
Right.
And activating the number one commodity in the world, which is attention.
Yeah.
People's attention is the thing that you don't even realize it, but that's what y'all motherfuckers want.
Yeah.
You want people's attention. And there are people who are pretty good at getting people's attention.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, I understand. I think it's tough when things have always been done as, for a long time anyway, they've been done a certain way. Cause you're like, well, I don't really care about the marketing, but that is what this is.
It's what everything is.
It's because of social media, everything is marketing. And, but I also think that's why, I have a lot of opinions about it at this point in my life. Cause I think it's really changed, especially again, because of the pandemic. But Yeah, I mean, that's basically what social media is. And it's funny because we call it social media. Like the point is that
Right.
we're all being social with each other, but we're not. We're all selling shit to each
We
other.
all think of it like when like fucking MySpace and Facebook first showed up and we're like, I'm at the park with my dog.
Right.
And it's like,
Facebook statuses.
That's
and,
fucking 15% of what's happening on those platforms right now.
And even what, like, to me, what Instagram stories are is that it's like, this is what I'm doing with my life.
Right.
But even then, you have to be entertaining the people that are watching it. Otherwise, they're going to stop
Tap.
watching it.
Yep.
And that's what's really interesting to me is just like how this is kind of like turned, I don't know, like it just feels very different. And whenever I get on Instagram or TikTok now, even TikTok shifted so fast for me, but like,
yeah,
I'm just like, this is all just garbage. Like there's everybody. And the thing is that maybe even like when I was at the Laugh Factory when I was in 2018 and I was like blowing their page up, it was still I wouldn't say it was like the Wild West or anything, but content wasn't at the stage that it was at,
right.
Especially on Instagram. And so we were we were beating out Comedy Central in growth because we were posting stand-up clips,
right?
And with captions on them, because I'm like, hey, knowing from my own experience, like there's a lot of times when they're not listening. They're flipping through shit, but maybe you can keep their attention if they can read it, right? Start doing that. Now look at your Instagram feed and see, it's like literally stand-up clip, like the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like white noise to me now. And then on a personal note, just going through all the reflecting that I've done and noticed how like my reasoning and motivation behind so much of what I was doing was out of insecurity, out of some kind of weakness or trying to force something to happen. It basically rooted out of some sort of fear of some kind, like, oh, I have to make all this content or I'm never going to make it. And if I never make it, then
what was the
I'm
point?
A piece of shit. And what was all this for? And just like, I don't know. The only way I know how to put it is like 20-year-old mindset. And like, I'm in my 30s now and I'm like, dude, there's way more important things to be fucking worried about than how many likes you got on an Instagram video.
Yeah.
And part of that probably came from, a lockdown and fucking scary shit and not, just
and
like
seeing that part of it can be taken away.
All of it can be taken away.
Yeah.
All of it can be taken away. And there's people who, who had huge deals that were like signed and then the pandemic hit and they lost that TV gig or they lost that big opportunity or whatever. Like none of this shit is guaranteed. I think a lot of it just took me back to this like, more eagle viewpoint or whatever of like, what is this all for? What are you doing this for? What's the point of all of this? Do you even enjoy this?
Are you at a point where personally you're answering some of those questions or are you still just asking them?
No, definitely.
That's not a like one of those is right or one of those is wrong. I just mean like that's a journey. First you have to ask all those questions and observe that situation like you said from afar. Then you kind of start slowly zooming back into okay, well
and maybe yes. So the answer is yes, but it's also like those questions are probably never going to, if I'm doing my job right as a human being, I think that those questions are never going to end.
Great answer.
I think that there's going to come many times in my life where I'm like, why am I doing this? And I think that's good to have personal, assessment.
Do you think I think you're absolutely right. And I think reassessing that is another reason I relate to that too, because I know that it's one of the reasons why I've started so many different like podcasts or shows or businesses or things that I'm doing. I do it for a little while and then I just stop. Yeah. And I think for like a minute, maybe the first few things I did, I would beat myself up and be like, man, what a waste. You should have kept doing that. And what if you'd posted a clip about that every day for the last 5 years? Where would that be
What if you did this? And what if you done that?
Exactly. And now not now, for a while, I've been like, that's not even the question. The question isn't like, what if I would have? The question is, why didn't you? And what made you stop doing it? It wasn't fun anymore, or it got too difficult with those people I was doing it with, or it wasn't the right fit at the right time. Those are actually better questions than what would have happened if I would have. Because first of all, that's irrelevant because I didn't. And second of all, I'm not going to learn from what I can't answer and didn't happen.
You literally can't answer that.
Yeah, it's
you
not
have
possible.
no idea that you could have done that. You could have gone through that effort every day and nothing came from it. And you would have been just,
Yeah. I have friends that have been doing like a podcast for like 5 years, and they do an episode every week, every couple weeks, and still nobody listens to it or watches it. And that's not me saying that. If you're hearing that and that's you, I'm not saying like, don't do it anymore. Fucking do it. If you do it and you like doing it, that's fucking the point, first of all.
Yeah, the point is to do it because you like to do it.
Yeah, and that's why I've been doing this so long.
Yeah.
Like this particular show, the reason I keep bringing it back, even if it's a few years and then I start doing it again, is because like Caitlin, I like talking to you. Like this is fun for me. I'm recording it because I think there's a chance, and I hear this when I publish, that other artists or other people reach out and they go, fucking loved that episode with so-and-so. Like what they said about that, I resonated with that, and it made me realize ... It was helpful. And so I'm like, okay, more than just, I could just invite you over here and not have these lights and cameras and just talk to you. That would be a little bit easier. But then the little nuggets we stumble upon in our conversation that I'm like, fuck, I wish someone else could hear this right now, won't just kind of disappear. That's the only reason why I keep doing this.
Right.
And I think that asking yourself those difficult questions of like, why, I started this bit to ask you. You said you're always going to keep asking yourself that if you're doing the right thing. And I think you're right. Do you think your recent experience really kind of going, whoa, I'm zooming out, let's ask. Do you think that's because you spent so long not asking yourself those questions?
That's a good question. I think that...
Because I hear that a lot on this show.
I think that unconsciously, I didn't want to answer those questions. Because what you're basically doing when you're asking those questions is you're confronting your ego.
Yes.
And you're going, okay, like you can even use something like losing weight or getting like hair transplants or like something and being like, why do you want this? And then when you start asking, the ego's like, well, no one's going to love me if I look like this. Like once you start like boiling it down, you go, well, why is that? Why is that? And you start asking your ego these questions. It comes down to some wound of some kind. Yeah. And so, but that also means that, the ego doesn't want to be checked. So, you can really self-sabotage, or you can do things to like avoid and like circumvent these questions. And for me, it was just work 24/7. Don't have a second to yourself to think. And I think a lot of people can probably relate, especially in LA, to the workaholic.
Right. Never heard that from a School of the Arts grad before. Nobody I know that was trained to think like that.
Trained to work their asses off 24/7. And so I mean, and part of that too is living in LA. And like I said earlier, just having to do what I had to do to survive. And, I didn't have mommy and daddy like helping out or whatever. Right. So it was like, hey, it's just me out here, no safety net, no savings, no, inheritance coming my way. Like there's nothing here to save me but me.
That's why we like each other.
Yeah, because you relate
exactly
to that.
Know what that's like.
And so I mean, I was working a lot, and then I discovered stand-up, and that was just like, oh man, I'd been like starving and showing up at a buffet. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, yum, yum, yum. And I just wanted to eat it all. But at the same time, I also very rarely had any moment to think, any moment to process. Definitely drank and smoked a lot more at that time too. So you're doing all these things to just like not look at things.
Right.
But really, it's necessary. And I feel like it's necessary if you actually want to like actually evolve. Like you can get these things that seem like evolution, like, oh yeah, well that's cool. I performed at the Comedy Store, the main room. I did that. It's like, yeah, you did that, but do you like, this isn't a consistent thing either. It's not like this is your new stage of career. Like you won the lottery and that's great, but now you're still making $15 an hour at McDonald's. So like, the long-term solutions, the long-term things that have like lasting effects is when you actually like address those like ego wounds. So that's like kind of where I've been at. And it's been scary because I'm not going up and performing and I'm not doing all this shit that I did to earn. I have to work all the time to earn something. I'm just going, just fucking chill out for a sec, what's going to happen? what's going to happen? You're going to sit and take some time off of stand up and what, like, you're going to deteriorate. You're going to start, your fingernails are going to start falling off. Like what?
It used to scare the shit out of me.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Because so much of our safety and security is like, well, as long as I'm working, I'll be okay. And it's like at a certain point, I was just like fucking tired of swimming upstream.
I love, first of all, I'm so grateful that you're here. And when I forget what you posted something online, and I was like, I
responded. A little summary of this.
It was,
yeah.
and I just like immediately dimmed your story, and I was like, you have to come talk to me about this, because I just talked to Joe Flanders about something very similar, like a few days before, and we had a very similar conversation of like going, and I love this show too, because until I really go out of my way to get the like, you know, holy shit big people who have gone to school of the arts, and I've talked to some people before they hit it big that are big now on the show early. But what I love about this show too is it's very much evolved from a show talking to people in their 20s to talking to people in their 30s. And because the earlier episodes of this show are like, well, I just got How to Get Away with Murder, and I'm very excited for it to come out. And now all the episodes feel like they're like, why am I doing this for? The fucking... Here I am 10 years later.
33 and I have nothing to show for it.
It's not that. And you have so much more to show for it. And this is what I told Joe, because Joe hit it big with Average Joe on YouTube right after school. And I said, dude, even if that had gotten, like, if someone bought that from you and put it on HBO at the time or whatever the fuck, you know, he worked for Jody Hill and those guys, David Gordon Green, like their company at first. If you had stayed there, if whatever you think would have been the thing had happened, eventually that would have come to an end too. And if you didn't immediately get something equal or bigger the next week, you would have had the same moment of like, what was the point and who cares and why am I, like, we were all going to come to that point hopefully. Yeah. And either you eventually hit that wall and have to zoom out and ask yourself the tough questions, or you're just jumping from one thing to the next, whether it's a job or a joint or a drink or something that is keeping you from asking those questions. Because eventually I feel like your ego is inherently knocking at the door. Yeah. It is going to show up at some point. And some people, it doesn't show up until they're like 50s. And that's a lot harder to fucking process than when you're 31 years old and you're like,
absolutely.
Okay, at least my youth isn't totally gone. And I'm getting some of this figured out. And figured out is wrong because that sounds final. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to slow down, ask myself these questions, and reassess why I'm doing what I'm doing, and take that into the next choice.
Yeah.
Which is huge. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. So like what kind of answers are you getting back from that?
Some of the things that are coming back to me, you know what I think it really is too, just to really quickly go off what you were just saying. I think it's not, you're right. It's never that it's over, because, you know, we're always going to have it. This is going to be, like, I think this is kind of what life is. It's a rinse and repeat thing of just a new chapter, a new lesson, and then do it again.
Right.
But the big takeaway for me is like, I'm discovering tools to deal with that in the future, or process these things in the future. So yeah, I don't want to be like 50 and all of a sudden, you know, finally figure out like, oh, I'm the common denominator in all this. That's why I have had, you know, 3 divorces, and, you know, I keep getting fired from my job, and all these cycles and stuff. I'm the only thing that's in all of these equations here.
Let's get the midlife crisis done early as fuck.
And maybe we won't need one now, ideally, because
that's
it's like, hope. You know, you have these little ego death experiences, you know, and I think that life like takes you to those things too. Like, you don't have to go looking for it either. Like, I mean, yeah, you can go and take some, I almost said ashwagandha, but that's actually like a supplement. What's the one that everybody goes and does in the jungle?
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca, thank you. Yeah, you can go looking for it too. Like, I dropped acid, you know, and I had a really fun time, like questioning things, getting answers and things like that. But also just going through life and trusting the unfolding of things also reveals it naturally.
Right.
Like in this situation. So yes, some of the answers I'm getting are just like, so a lot of the stuff that I want from these things that I've always said I wanted, okay, like even fame or success or a lot of money, being an actor or a comedian or any of those things. It was because I did not, it was their childhood wounds that I thought my ego, thought that if I had these things, then it would fix this problem. So
I get the right kind of attention that gives me what I want out of it.
I didn't feel special as a kid, right?
Yeah.
So what do I want? I want something that makes me feel like I'm special and it like sets me apart from other people.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well that's actually really helpful because now I know that like the wound is not feeling special. You just feel like you're just another brick in the wall or whatever. Well then like address that in your life. How do I feel special what does that mean? First of all, is this like a flawed premise to begin with?
Yeah.
To like, what does that even mean to be special? Isn't everybody special? Like, what is that? It's just like a flawed premise. It's something that a child came up with when they were little,
right?
And they were
and now
hurt.
It's governing you as an
and
adult.
now it's making all my choices for me. Like, it's just kind of crazy.
Yeah. It both makes sense and feels insane. You know what I mean? You're like, that totally lines up.
Yeah,
I get it logically, but what the fuck?
Hell?
Yeah.
And so it's also really scary. And this is where the ego death comes in because, our ego like creates all these, these definitions for us that we feel safe in, even if it's not what we ultimately want.
Right.
And so like, it's like, yeah, I feel safe here, but is this really what I even want to be doing? And I basically I just took a step back and, I'm a spiritual person. So I was like, I'm just going to give this up to the universe because I don't really know I know like I didn't go looking for stand-up. Stand-up found me. Maybe some other things will find me too.
Yeah. That's a fucking great attitude, dude.
I think that I put myself out there enough that is a reasonable thing to expect.
Yep.
I still love stand-up. I still love, the idea of like making movies. I still love all these things, but it's like, it's not like my worth and my whole life's purpose is now like knotted up in this thing that I really have no control, like. Yeah. I am like deeply
happy for you.
Thank you.
No, I mean this. Like to hear my friends and my colleagues and peers and stuff that surround me in this business and from school in my life, to hear them say, and a lot of it is doing this fucking show for so long, hearing them say, I am no longer tied to or attached to or my ego or my joy or whatever is not immediately congruent to my success in whatever the fuck I thought I was doing.
Right.
I just felt you breathe deeply over here. No, I mean it. That's what it feels like because it's a tough thing to go to a school, for example, like School of the Arts, where that is the one thing that I feel like, again, I say this almost every episode, so I want to let everybody know, I'm not talking about how it is now because I don't know how it is now. I know how it was then when we were there. And from everything I've heard, how it was for a very long time before we got there. They do not teach you that you shouldn't tie yourself to this. In fact, they're more like, you're here and you'll go where you'll go. Because you're an artist, because you're talented, because you have this skill set. That is who you are. And that's what makes you special. That's your value in this world. Totally. And I think there's truth in that to a degree. But when you tell someone who's fucking 18 or even 21 or whatever you start, when you give them that, when they're so hungry for that validation, for that attention, for that, we run too far and fast with it. We don't stop to go like, okay, but that's not the only value I bring. That's not the only thing that can bring me joy in this life. I used to think that if I didn't end up like in a long-term relationship with someone else who's in art, I remember, who was it? Somebody came and did a talk back at school in like the drama school, and I didn't even go to it. My roommate went and he came back and I was like, how'd it go? Fuck. Mandy Patinkin. He came back and I think, I'm going to fuck this up. But the point is there, even if I get the details wrong. My best friend Brandon went to the talk back and they did like a Q&A and he asked him, how do you manage a relationship with what everyone is telling us is a completely consuming life? Right? You're telling us, fucking don't fall back. You fall forward into this life. This world of being an artist is go, go, go. And if you're going to lose if you don't keep up with everybody else who's working their ass off. There's some value to that, generally speaking, though it can be, like I said, a lot for a teenager.
Right.
But he came back and he asked that question, and the answer he got, paraphrasing, I wasn't there, was, I don't have an easy answer for that, but it is very helpful if the other person in your life at least understands where you're coming from when you say, I have to go to rehearsal till 11 o'clock at night. I have to shoot this movie for 15 hours tomorrow.
Right.
And if they don't get that and they've never really been around that and they're just like, that goes over their head, and you try to explain to them why you're not going to be there for dinner, they're going to resent you over time. It's very likely. And I've fucking, how long ago was that? I still remember that. I wasn't even there, and it stuck with me because I'm like, well, that's key. Meet someone at this school if possible, because they're going to relate to it the most closely to anybody. And even though my wife did go to conservatory for singing, she quickly, even at school, finished her bachelor's, but before she finished it was like, I don't want to do this. I'm not, and I don't even think I want to be a performer and artist for a living at all. She's a fucking therapist now.
Yeah.
Which balance to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Especially making reality TV. I feel like she's out there fixing all the wounds I'm opening for people. But I feel like that's one of the things that I held on to that and took it too far and too fast, and was like, I wasn't even open to the idea of like dating someone who's like a lawyer or an accountant or a teacher or something. 'Cause I'm like, they'll never get me. They're never going to get it. And that's like one of those weird cons that goes with all the pros of getting a really focused education when you're that young, is like you are learning a lot more about a single thing than someone who's at a liberal arts college. But you're also like, you're dabbling in some shit that I don't know if we're mature enough to, okay, take a breath. Don't just grab it and hold on to it and just take off down the beach with this kite that's dragging in the sand. You gotta pay attention and get it up first.
Well, I don't know about the drama school, but I know in the film school, I just don't think that even our teachers and the people that were teaching us and who were, adults mentoring us in any way, I don't even think they had a balance. I don't think that they knew what that even, and I think part of that, like when I first started doing stand-up, for example.
I'll answer your previous question and say the drama school is the same. Go ahead.
Oh, it is? Okay,
yeah,
great.
For sure.
Yeah, it's like, these are people teaching us, and I'm like, and they're workaholics, and a lot of them have failed marriages, and a lot of them are sick or broke,
Maybe not all, but it's there.
Majority, like, I mean, there's definitely some people who like just retire and they're like, you know what, I'm going to go teach, and there's some of that. But in the film school, a lot of it, especially I don't know, because like a lot of people don't stop doing this work until like literally till they physically can't move anymore.
Told they have to quit.
Get off.
Gerald.
Yeah. So I don't think that they necessarily, so when I first started doing stand-up, I was like, oh, this sounds really fun. This seems like a cool thing. And all the people around me who did stand-up, a lot of people I worked with at the club and stuff, were like, oh, this is all, you have to do this 24/7. This is your life now. You can't just do this for fun. You can't just like do comedy.
There are no nights off in comedy.
There's no nights off in comedy. And, the best comics, they go up 2-3 times a night. And you're just like, Jesus Christ. And, I never gave a shit about stand-up comedy. So I was like, well, I guess if that happens, then that happens, whatever. But I'm not going to like, I physically can't live like that.
Yeah.
But I did really try. Like, I tried pretty freaking hard. I mean, every night pretty much. I mean, it was like I'd have one night a week where I'd be like just sitting in my apartment, and it made me feel anxious. So I was like, I should be out there, But what's funny
I'm going
to
see another comic tomorrow night. They're going to be like, where were you last night? Did you not go out?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That thing too. Like,
yeah.
The sizing each other up, and a lot of like competitiveness and stuff. And I mean, I think it's because don't get me wrong, I love stand up, but I don't give a shit about it.
Yeah.
And
what does that mean?
It means
like,
that
I said because I think I get it, but what does that mean to you?
It means that I enjoy the art form of it. I enjoy doing the art form of it. I enjoy like the art of stand up, performing
but
stand up.
You like
comedy.
watching it?
No. I don't really watch it. Unless I have to, like, I'm not going to go to a stand-up. I'm not going to go to a show and watch someone else's comedy. There's a couple comics that I will go and watch, like Anthony Jeselnik, I think is great. I'll go watch
One
him.
of the best ever.
But I think it's because, I love it. I think it's a beautiful art form. I love that I get to do it, but I also never cared about it. It was never like I didn't watch a bunch of specials and I was like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Right.
I had no passion behind it.
That's so interesting. I don't think I knew that about you.
Yeah, just it landed in my lap and it answered a lot of requests that I had been kind of putting out there, and it just kept happening. And I'm a big believer in one foot in front of the other. Let's just see where this goes. And it's not like I had anything else going on at the time.
Got it.
So I was like, hey, this is something. At least we're putting something somewhere. But yeah, everyone around me is like, you can't just do this casually, And I'm like, all right, but I'm not. I was like, I just remembered them all telling me I'm gonna have to go to open mics for like 5 or 6 years. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And I mean, I think a lot of people, it's the same thing with the School of the Arts where they're like, you have to earn this. You have to work your ass off. This is all you can do. And I'm like, at the time, because we were young, I bought into that. But now I'm like, well, that's not how I want to live, though. Like, I also want to go to concerts and I want to go travel. I want to go to Joshua Tree on weekends. I want to have a boyfriend. I'd like to have like
a life.
And I think the pandemic helped me in a lot of ways because I was going nonstop. Like, I was waking up, going to work, getting off work, going and doing stand up and drinking every night too, because I was performing. And I had so much performer's anxiety.
And there's alcohol at almost all comedy shows.
Well, that's how they pay you at half the freaking shows.
Here's a drink ticket. Thank you for your set.
Yeah. So
like, I don't drink. Can I get a basket of fries or something?
Yeah. Dude, just like greasy food.
Yeah.
Drinks. So I was doing that every night. I never exercised. I never that's like funny to me to even think about me going to the gym or something at this time. I literally did nothing but work. And then on weekends, I'd work on a food truck to make up because I still didn't have any. So I was just like constantly going. And the pandemic was like, sit down, be still, be quiet, and let's work through some shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at now. I don't, I honestly don't know what my future holds with stand up.
Great.
I'm okay with that.
I feel the same way. Did I tell you about the month I did? I think it was January 2019.
The month that you did.
Like I don't think so. So I'm trying not to repeat any of the stuff I talked to you about in 2019 because people can just go listen to that. But I think it was January 2019. Maybe it was 2018. But back when I was doing stand-up really regularly, I gave myself a challenge because I had that fucking pressure. Mm-hmm. I was like, they're like, if you don't, basically, again, your success is directly tied to the amount of sets you do. Mm-hmm. And so I gave myself a thing of in that January. Did I tell you about this? I
remember this. You were going to go up every day or
every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to go up every day of this month just to see what that's like. Because if I was a professional comedian, as all accounts have told me, that would be my life. And so I decided to commit to doing that. It's going to be my number one focus. And at the end of January, because it was like a New Year's resolution, I was like, no, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like I didn't make it. I did go to the end of the month, but I would rationalize shit like a Thursday. I just wasn't feeling it. And so on Sunday I would do like 5 sets, and like try to make it up.
To make up for.
Yeah. So that way I ended up doing over I think I did like 40 sets for the month of 31 days or whatever. And I was like, well, I also had a hosting gig. So that was really helpful. Like every Sunday I hosted like 3 1-hour mics in a row. Mm-hmm. And so I got 3 5-minute sets on Sunday night every week. But sometimes I would use that as a reason not to go earlier in the week. And by the end of the month, I was like, just the fact that you're doing that
says a lot.
It says a lot about how you feel about this. Mm-hmm. And then when I opened the club in Austin, I was like, I'm going to start doing more again because first of all, I have the full freedom of, this is my club. I'll go whenever the fuck I want. I'll open for this headliner this weekend for 3 minutes if I feel like it. What are they going to say? Like, I'm going to be like, do you want your check?
So a lot of the club owners do.
Oh, I'm sure. It's the total club owner vibe.
It's
And I had no shame about it because I was like, I'm never going to I'm not going to slot myself in as a 20-minute middle when I'm not going to be good. Yeah. But if I want to host for the night, which I'm a great host, I'll give that to myself. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm a great stand-up, but I'm a good host because I'm good at crowd work. I'm good at responding what's in the room. I have a good fun energy to start the night. I'm not like, what's up, guys? From the comedy show. Like
so many.
Oh my God, excruciating. I have all my feelings about putting the mic back and keeping the stage set for everybody. I love hosting. And so I was like, I'm going to start doing that. But even that, girl, I probably did I probably did, I probably did like 8 fucking sets in 2 years.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I do like this medium. And I do think I could later in my life, when it's something I really feel enthusiastic about, I could work on a like half hour that I feel really good about and is fun for me. And it would probably be closer to a fucking one-man show theater style thing, because that is where my brain is. And the idea of like laughs per minute and all that shit, I'm like, I don't actually like doing that. And I don't like the pressure of that. And I don't want to work a tight 5 that I just run into the ground waiting until I get on a fucking talk show that nobody watches.
Yeah.
Like, and I so relate to your story of like, when I left Comedy Central as a writer, and my boss was like, I was like, I want to do stand up. And he was saying, I think you're funnier than most people who try to do that, but they're by and large not happy people. And I was like, I hear that. I've never forgotten it. That was like in 2014 when he told me that. I still think about it. I ran a club for 2 years. I can attest to that. It is true.
Yeah.
And it is just another artistic medium where people from top to bottom, but especially at the bottom, will try to tell you what it takes to be in that business.
Yeah.
And fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do it for the reasons you want to do it, try.
Yeah.
If you don't, and you go up every day of the month or whatever, and you're like, I don't fucking like this, you're not a failure. It's just that's not your life, and that's okay.
I think that there's a lot of art forms that you can do casually for fun. You can paint when you have a Sunday off and you're just trying to relax. And, I
play
do
music.
Yeah. You can play the guitar, you can pick it up, and you can there's certain things you can do from, art forms that you can do casually. I do think that stand up, part of the reason why people say this and where a lot of this comes from, is that it really does require some momentum.
Yes.
And it's not as fun. And this is coming from someone who, in the last few months, I've just been like, let's have it when it happens, it happens. I've just been very like, whatever. I haven't been like hitting the pavement or whatever. And so I've been going up like maybe once a week. And like this last month, like twice in the month. So every other week. And it is fun, but it's not the same.
Right.
Because there is like a build, and the way that part of like, to me, what I do like about stand up and comedy writing in general is the development of the joke and the development of the material.
Right.
And to do that, you have to kind of go up consistently.
Sure.
To try this, that didn't work. Okay. You go back up, you try that, and you just keep molding it in that way. And if that's how it was kind of structured to me when I started, was like, hey, this is the art form requires consistency. Then I've been like, okay, respect. But that's not how it was framed to me. It's like, if you don't do this, you're never going to make it.
Right.
And like, we're all going to die. Like that was kind of like, it was just like life or death. You have to, hustle, or
you won't get any value out of it.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I want to do that. I want to go up consistently, not because I'm trying to make it, but because I enjoy the process of writing, and I enjoy this really weird type of writing too. Like it's how many types of writing, even poetry, not too many of them get performed. So it's like a style of writing that gets performed, and it's what I wrote. I mean, it's just cool. I like I said, I really respect the art form a lot. But I also, I'm not going to because you said a lot of comics are sad. I think that a lot of what was driving me, like, oh, I got to be famous and I got to be good at this, I got to post clips on Instagram every day, is because I was trying to prove that I was like good.
Legit, yeah.
And I was trying to prove that like, no, I'm good at this and I'm succeeding. And it's like, hey, maybe you're not. Maybe you're not.
Well, but that's also fully subjective, because when you post a single clip on the Laugh Factory stage or at the fucking Flappers main room, you post a single clip, and the fucker who is still in your hometown that you went to high school with sees that, they're like, you're crushing it.
Yeah.
Like, and so honestly, this sounds so weird, but when that first started showing up, like when I was doing like comedy contests, or I won something, or I got booked on a thing, and I felt pretty good, but I posted it, and then, I'm like, but this is still nothing. You're still nobody. And then someone from my hometown is like, I'm so impressed. I'm blown away. You're so courageous, and you're so great. They start just showering it on you. My ego wants to listen to the fucking other loser open micers on my
Right.
show, that's not shit.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I'm going to listen to fucker in hometown. That makes me feel good. And
Yeah.
he's right to a degree, because what his comment is coming from is, I think about doing that kind of shit sometimes and then I don't. And you're doing it.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Like, I have days where I watch stand-up comedy on fucking Netflix and then I turn it off and I'm like, maybe I could do stand-up. And then I do nothing with that. And there you are on a stage with the mic telling jokes and I hear people laughing. Fucking good for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, why does my ego not want to let that affect me?
Yeah.
That should affect me. There's value in that, because who's to say that this other asshole at the open mic in LA is right? He's not any more right than the hometown guy.
Yeah. And even to break it down even further, like, why are we looking to other people to help us define?
Because we don't trust what we think about it.
You know? And I mean, that's kind of, I think, and I do care a lot about, and I mean, this is what I'm trying to unwind, but I'm like, I do care about what other people think.
Yeah, that's
And
okay.
That's also why the social media stuff is also a slippery slope, because it's, you know, so much of what I also realized I was doing was the stuff that I would post. It was curated content to prove that I was doing good. You know, like, I wasn't, not to say that I need to show videos of me crying or like falling apart, but it was always stuff.
You can just send those to me if it makes you feel better.
I'll send those to you privately.
That'd be great.
And during the pandemic, I did a little bit of that. You know, I was trying to be like, hey, it's hot, all rainbows and sunshines. Like, I'm fucking losing it. But, you know, I think I'm just trying to define what does it mean to me. If I really break it down, go general as I can go. It's just like, I just want to be happy.
Right.
And I just want to feel satisfied. And if I can do those things, then that's great. Because most people are not fucking happy and they're definitely not satisfied. And I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I just want to live a happy life. That's it.
Yeah.
And if that includes stand-up, great. And if it doesn't, you know, okay. I don't want to give up on something because, you know, for the wrong reasons. But if something else presents itself, I'll keep following those breadcrumbs and just see what the hell, you know, goes down.
Well, until you're dead, it's not over.
It's not.
You could take a fucking 10-year break from something and come back. You know, I mean, some comics that I really respect have like long gaps in when they worked, and they decided not just like I didn't want to do it anymore, but like there were other things in my life that I was like, that's just no longer a priority, and it'll always be there. Because once you pick up the very basic skills of being able to, for stand up, for example, but to make it even I think more universal, once you learn where all the keys are on a piano, you know where they are.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that without practice, you're going to stay as sharp or as good as you always were. But at any point, spend a month, get back at the fucking keys and fuck with it. And then you never know when that might come back. And if it never does, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is a hard thing to think about when you're younger. And when you get a little bit older and a little bit more perspective and you start backing up from things and you go, wow, I know where the keys are on the piano. I know where the strings are on the guitar. I know where the mic is on the stage. I know where all that shit is. And it'll always be there for me if I decide that that's interesting to me again and it's fun again. And maybe when I pick it back up, I'll have that thing of like, I feel good about this. Let's get that momentum. That set went well. Let's do another set. Let's work that joke out. And then if I get back up and I'm like, I still don't like this. I fucking fuck this.
Yeah.
That's okay too.
Yeah.
It's fine. And like you said, it's like okay to have the simple goals of like, be happy.
Yeah.
And satisfied with waking up every day and not feeling like you're a constant disappointment to yourself.
Right. Just like beating yourself up over one thing
It's
or the
brutal.
other. It can be really brutal.
Like
nobody knows you as well as you do. So you really know how to crack
if
the
you're
whip.
not your own worst critic, I get nervous about people who it seems like they aren't. Like that they are so confident. And believe me, I have confidence. I'm regularly criticized for being borderline arrogant because I'm so like, I do believe I have a skill set and I'm good at certain things. But no one's harder on me than me, 100%. And so I have to also be my own little like maternal therapist in my head and be like, Rob, you have value. Calm down. Stop being an asshole to you.
Yeah.
That's unnecessary and not helpful.
It's not going to do anything.
Can we close out by talking a little bit about sobriety?
Sure.
because I feel like, if I remember correctly, and I told somebody the other day that I really was sure used to live in San Diego. I was like, "Are you still in San Diego?" And they're like, "I've never lived in San Diego." And I was like, I lose track of what's going on with other people. I fully did. And I was like, and even after they told me, I was like, are they sure? Like, I was like,
didn't believe
I'm
it?
like pretty fucking sure they lived there, dude. Are they from there? But they said never lived there. I'm like, well, they can't be from there. But I feel like this year you've encountered sobriety more than you have before.
Ever, yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I was specifically with weed for me. Mm-hmm. And I was smoking weed every day for like 11 years, with probably an accumulative month's worth of days off, in over a decade. And not like, it's funny to me because in all that time, I never became one of those people that was like, I'm putting away half an ounce a day. Like I never got to like rapper, like Snoop Dogg status.
Right.
But, you know, I'm like a bong smoker more than I am, you know, like joints and stuff like that. 3-4 bowls a day, probably throughout. Mm-hmm. And for a very, very long time. Had issues over the years, and when I would take short breaks, made me very uncomfortable because they were usually not on purpose. They would be like, "Oh, I'm in Texas again," or "I'm fucking in this place where I can't get any," or "I'm at my fucking in-laws' house," or whatever.
It wasn't like a choice.
Oh my God. One time, and this is I did Joe Flanders' podcast years ago and told this full story. People can go listen to if they want, where I mailed myself weed in Texas because I had the best weed I'd ever had in North Carolina when I was at school. It was amazing. And I was going home for like 3 weeks. Right. And I was like, not only do I need weed in Texas, I want this weed. And so I like put it in peanut butter and did all this stuff to like send it to myself. And I was fucking terrified. And it was around the holidays. And so like shipping is fucking delayed and fucked up. And it came 3 days late. And so not only did I end up going like a week without weed, which for me at the time was excruciating, for the last 3 days, I'm like, the fucking feds are like around the corner in a van waiting for me to pick up the package so they can be like, freeze, at my mom's house. And so like
like an eighth of weed or something.
Yeah, it was nothing. It was nothing. It was probably like a quarter. It was like 7 grams of pot that, hey, in Texas, I probably would have done 20 years.
Yeah.
So anyway, this year, because I got COVID at my fucking wedding and, or the day after, I made it all the way through the wedding and then I got it the day after and I spent the month of May fucked up from COVID. It took me like 2 weeks of getting out of it. And then I kind of got weirdly sick again, not COVID related. So the whole month of May I was fucked up. And then over the summer, I started trying to smoke again. And I started to get this weird like pain/pressure in my chest. And I became convinced, because there's a lot of heart disease in my family, I was like, oh my God, my fucking terrible Jack in the Box childhood is catching up to me and I'm going to have a heart attack. Like this is the beginning of me having a heart attack. And I'm telling you, over a decade of never experiencing anxiety with weed, ever. I've never had that problem. Other people be like, man, I can't get too high. I start freaking out. I'm like, I have no paranoia. I have no anxiety. In the history of me smoking weed, I've never had that symptom. And over the summer, I'm like freaking out. I didn't have health insurance at first. Luckily, after I got married, I was able to get on my wife's. And so, and my fucking mom had a heart attack this summer.
So
and she's fine.
Really fresh on your brain.
Yeah. And so I was like, I have to make a choice now between never smoking weed again or dying of a heart attack. That's like the crossroads I'm at. And I can't believe this is happening so young in my life. And so I ended up.
But you never had any doctor tell you that. This is just in your head.
Just in my head. I'm like, what else is this?
Yeah.
I go to the doctor. I get fucking EKG. I get heart, fucking chest x-rays. I got all the blood drawn out of my whole body. Brand new blood. And I got all the tests and they're like, you're not even partially at risk for heart disease. You're fine.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And I'm like,
you just were anxious from smoking that bowl for the first time.
After taking a month off, which I'd never done.
Yeah.
And so even now when I smoke again, I'm like, it still comes back. And I'm convinced that there is something else going on. I don't think I'm in danger. And when I start to get paranoid now, when I smoke, I'm like, remember what the doctor said, you're fucking fine. Like I have to talk to myself about that. But what bothers me is I smoke and then I'm good for a little bit. And then it starts to set in again in my chest. And I'm like, why is this happening? I thought, I know I'm good.
Yeah.
So why is it fucking happening to me? And then also the big thing that I experienced was the fucking dreams. Because if anyone out there doesn't know this already, if you smoke weed all the time and then you stop because your REM sleep has been suppressed, the most lucid dreams, like a fucking mushroom trip, just come in hard. Have you had any of these experiences? What was your path like with the sobriety? Why did you do it? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you now?
How much time do you have?
Right? I said wrap up. This is going to be the last
let's
hour
wrap
of
up
the
and
show.
We'll do it for 3 more hours. So it's funny that you bring this up because I am smoking again.
Right.
But I went 3 months off of it.
And I'm a month in now as the cap to my story because I did Sober October. Even after this month of nothing, I started smoking and drinking again. But then for October, I was like, I'm going to see if I can do this again because I think I need to start taking these breaks.
Yeah, I definitely think the breaks are good. I had pretty much smoked like every day since I moved out here in like 2014. I never really smoked that much before I moved out here.
Not at like in North Carolina, not a lot?
Nope.
Okay.
Just drank.
Right.
And then, but yeah, just like clicked in with me when I moved out here and I really liked it. And I just did it all day, every day.
They have it at the store.
Like literally it's everywhere. It was definitely like an easy solution to a lot of problems. Like, I was just like really broke and I was struggling and it was like this, it buffered the pain of the situation I was in pretty well. You're like, God, I'm living in someone's basement apartment making $8, or whatever the fuck. My rent is $800 from $200 in North Carolina. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm working all these, cobbled together all of these restaurant gigs and, whatever.
You know that quote about times with no weed? Was it like, weed will get you through times with no money better than money will get you through times with no weed?
Yes. And that makes total, it was like, it was helpful at the time.
Right.
But then it just became such a habit and I never really checked it. But it was also something that like, I don't even think it was really having an effect on me anymore because I'd smoked it so much that I was just like, I'm just doing it to do it. And I'm like, God, this is so expensive just to be doing it. And I was really starting to resent it, but I couldn't stop. Like, it was just like this compulsory kind of thing. And then my mouth got inflamed. Like, it was like, my tongue was all inflamed. Like, my taste buds were inflamed. And
was your body telling you like,
I feel like it was, because especially during the pandemic, it was like there was nothing. And I did the same thing with alcohol. Like during the pandemic, when it first hit, I was like, listen, kiddo, talking to myself here. I'm like, we don't know what the fuck is going on. We have no context if the world is going to end. We don't know how long this is happening. Like, if it makes you feel better to have a glass of wine, fucking have a glass of wine.
Not going out sober, bitch.
Yeah, like kind of just like do whatever you want because like this is a really weird time. And so it's kind of like this hall pass. And also I'd always, I've always liked to drink, but I also kept it wrangled in. And I'm like, let's see what happens when you take off these, these restrictions, baby. Like, what kind of person can you be? And like, let's see how far you could fly. And
that's what I did because when I quit this summer smoking, I started drinking, and I've never been a drinker.
Yeah, well, that's really common too for people when they quit one, they'll kind of turn to the other one and things like that.
And then my wife, after 8 days, was like, "Do you remember how you said you don't want to drink every day?
It's day 8.
You've been drinking every day for 8 days."
Yeah,
and I was like,
"Oh, I
poured out the drink I was in the middle of making."
Yeah,
because she said it to me. She's like, "I'm not telling you what to do. I never will."
Yeah.
But you told me you didn't want to do what you're doing right now.
This is just a notification.
Cork back in.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck.
Well, during the lockdown, especially in the beginning, because it was like I have a joke about it. I was like, airport rules. It was like, oh, it's 9 a.m.
Right.
But you know what? It's 5 p.m. in Paris, so fuck it, And you're just like, who cares? Because I got nothing to do today, and I got nothing to do tomorrow, and I got nothing to do the next day, and I don't know when I'm going to have something to do again. Right. And this is all I have right now.
I'm not flying the plane.
Yeah, I'm not doing shit. Honestly, like I'm not doing anything. And so that first like month, I was drinking like 2 bottles of wine a day, which if you think about it, isn't crazy.
Not if you start early.
It wasn't just like, like there are definitely a couple nights where I got pretty shit faced, but no, it's just more of like, it gave me something to do. It numbed it a little bit, But there came a time, and especially because I like gained weight, obviously I did. I was doing that and doing nothing but cooking and eating
Almost
food
all of us did.
because there's nothing else to do. And I was like, okay. There definitely came a point, like it came to a head where I was like, I don't want to touch the stuff anymore.
Right.
Like I drank all that I could drink. I definitely felt gross. I didn't like the way that I felt. And so I want to say like a month off. But the thing was, I didn't even think about it really. It was just, I wasn't like, oh, day 9. Oh God. It was just like, I didn't want to drink.
Right.
And so taking a step away from it helped me to reassess, helped me to, clear it out of my system. And then
this is like summer 2020?
I don't even remember when this was. No, it was definitely 2021.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I wasn't drinking 2 bottles of wine through that whole time.
Okay.
That just was like the first month of like, when we were in that lockdown.
And then you kind of evened it out, but you were keeping it up.
But there was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
We were all kind of like secluded. My neighbors in my building, I became friends with everybody. We were just like, what do you want to do today? Well, let's get drunk at the pool again. So we'd like just get shit faced at the pool every day. It was like spring break and it was fun. Like the first day we were like, oh my God, I'm doing this during work hours. Ooh, I'm having a margarita at 2. And then it was like 10 a.m., a couple weeks from that, we're like, fuck it. What's the point? I mean, it really showed me like the importance of like having meaning in your life.
Yeah. Because we don't retire until we're old.
I'm like, because the second that you don't have, it's just like, well, what's the point of all this? Like, all right, I'll just give up. So yeah, taking a break from alcohol, reassessing, then it was like, well, shit, I can have like 1 drink now and be hammered. So that also helped.
Yep.
But yeah, so it really taught me a lot, and I've never taken a break that long from drinking. I don't think, ever in my life, if I'd taken off a whole month. So that was great. And then, yeah.
Did you start young with drinking and smoking?
Yeah.
Like how young?
Well, yeah, I guess young, everybody's different. I think I was like 15.
Okay.
15 or 16.
So I didn't do shit till I was like 19.
Yeah.
Like, I did nothing in high school. I was such a square. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. It wasn't around me. I didn't have those kind of cool friends. We were all like drinking coffee.
My dad was the first one to give me booze.
Nice.
So
my parents offered me everything.
Yeah.
And not like in a let's party, but in a like very,
if you want to know.
Yeah, Amy Poehler and fucking Mean
cool
Girls.
mom.
Yeah, it was like, I'd rather you do it in the house.
Yeah.
It was always that. And they made it really clear, like if you ever want to do it, we'll get it for you. You can do it here on the couch. I think
that's the way to go. I mean,
but as a result, I was like, I'm good.
Yep.
I never took them up.
Mine was a little bit different, but I think that's a good situation. But yeah, I just had always smoked weed, and then my mouth was just like, it hurt.
Right,
and then
right.
putting smoke in there just didn't feel good. And so I was like, well, let's use this as an opportunity to take a break.
Yeah.
And so at first I was just like, okay, I'll just hit this vape pen. I couldn't still just like cut it out completely. I was like, let's just use this vape pen. Nope, still hurt. All right, I'll just do edibles. Nope, still dried my mouth out. That
was me with the chest thing. I was like, I'll try
edibles,
different things.
So some kind of inflammation or something. And
wow.
So I had to stop, and I didn't, it was crazy because I had all these withdrawal symptoms, and I didn't know that was a thing that you can have.
Crazy.
THC.
We had almost the exact same experience, like a month apart for different reasons.
And I posted about it on my TikTok, and this is what's funny was that it
like blew up, right?
Dude, I got like 2 million views on it. I got 30,000 followers. And it was just from me being like, I'm having withdrawal symptoms from quitting weed. And it was just crazy how many people feel this. It's not an addiction in the sense where I'm like salivating like chemically.
But it's a dependency.
It's a dependency.
That's the word I use.
Because it does make things easy. It dampens things in a lot of ways. Like even if I have like social anxiety, I mean, it's like fucking cure all. I mean, if there's anything that I have a problem with, I can smoke and it seems to make it better.
Yeah.
But also I don't know, like there were so many emotions and there were so many things about myself I didn't even, dude, I was just so uptight when I quit. Yeah. I was just so uptight. I didn't realize how much of a control freak I was. I was like, I'm trying to control everything. And so yeah, it was like 3 months of that. I started a new job as a writer. Definitely couldn't be smoking weed and doing that job when I started.
Can you say on what?
Oh yeah, funny you should ask.
Oh,
yeah.
Great.
So I've been writing jokes for them, and at first it was like a lot, and so I was like, I'm really glad I quit because I need all my mental, everything working.
Yep.
And then like I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I was like, shit, I'm bored with this now. Like at first this was really challenging. I'm writing jokes all day. And now I'm like, yeah, I got it. I figured it out. There's a formula. And so now I'm kind of bored. And I just felt this urge to go smoke again. I haven't really felt the urge to during those 3 months. Like I was like, I'm good. I don't want it. And then I was just like, yeah, let's go hit up that bowl or that bong. So that was like 2 weeks ago. So I've been smoking again.
How's it been? Is
I
it right
love
back in the saddle? Or
kinda. Yeah. At first I like, remember it was like at first, like one night I'm like, ooh, I'm going to have the bong, you know? And I took like one baby hit and I was like off in another fucking planet.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, this is amazing.
I look forward to November 1st.
Oh my God. It was so great. But then, yeah, now I'm like kind of back in the saddle where I'll like smoke. It's still not nearly as much, but I'm still smoking it like throughout my day. Like I'm starting in the afternoon and then kind of just rolling on through till the evening. And yeah, I'm just trying to be nice to myself about it. I'm like, all right, if you want to do it, do it. You know, like you're an adult and it's not like so far I don't see any negative consequences to, you know, I'm still going to the gym every day. My money's in order. Like I don't really see any negative consequences. My mouth is okay.
I think if your world is falling apart because of marijuana, of all things, it's more about your life and less about the marijuana. That's just my opinion because as someone who's also done harder drugs and I've drank and stuff like that, it just doesn't have that much power on its own as a substance to like pull you down. It is mostly... It's like a +1 across your stats in like role-playing world. It's just like
a good way of putting it.
A little bit higher on each one. You know, my biggest complaint about not smoking is 2 things. No matter what I do, no matter the melatonin or whatever I do, I just can't get good enough sleep without the weed. It really makes a big difference for me. And I don't need to blast myself to sleep. I just need a little hit about a couple hours before bed or a little sooner. And it just, I wake up and I don't get up in the middle of the night. It feels like the weed keeps me asleep and I just can't get a full uninterrupted night's sleep without. It's very difficult. And then the other thing I told my wife today, she was like, you excited for Tuesday? And I was like, fuck yeah. And she was like, do you feel healthier? And I was like, fucking 5% maybe. Cause I also did like really low sugar, low carb for Sober October. That was like part of my thing is I'm going to spend it. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to smoke. And I'm going to try, you know, no fucking ice cream and like very little bread or
like
anything like that.
Sugars
yeah. And so I was like, that's been my month. And she was like, do you feel better? And I was like, I look better. Because I've definitely lost some weight in places where I did a podcast right before this, and it's part of why I did it, where I shot it like from this angle, and my face had no jawline, it felt like. And I was like, no.
Definitely the alcohol will just have you holding water.
Didn't like that. And so I was like, this has I gotta do something about this. That was part of it. But more than anything with the weed, I was like, my fucking excitement for life is lower. Yeah. The weed makes me like enthusiastic about shit. Yeah. You know, it takes boring tasks and makes it a little more fun. Yeah. It's like, I'm like, yeah, let's clean the apartment. Like that. Yeah, it sounds like fun. Let's get the vacuum and fucking, you know, it's like
it does.
Stuff that it almost shouldn't be fun. Yeah. But with just a little hit, you're like, this is cool, man. Let's put some tunes on and fucking clean the apartment. And it's like, all this stuff has to happen anyway. I have to clean the apartment one way or another. And to do it sober is a drag.
Yeah. Because I mean, I got a lot of comments on those videos that were like, oh, I'm never quitting. And I'm like, I'm not telling anybody to fucking quit.
You weren't preaching like.
I'm not telling anybody. I was like, this is what I'm going through. Like, keep doing it, dude. Like, you know, I think out of all the things that you can do to your body, I think it's pretty low on that because
of all the intoxicants.
Even sugar I think is pretty fucking bad for you. Yep. And you know, I think the worst of it is maybe I eat more than I do when I'm not smoking weed.
100%.
But I always eat healthy. So I mean, I'm not like in there like cramming like, you know, Ben and Jerry's or something because I'm high. I'm eating cucumbers and hummus. But I'm probably eating more than I would if I didn't smoke the weed. Sure. But I don't know. Yeah. So I haven't been able to drink for like 2 weeks now because I've been on antibiotics. And the alcohol, I think, is way worse on your body. And I'm like, you know what? Smoke the weed. I can't have caffeine, or I'm not supposed to. I'm still doing it. Oops. you know, if you can't have caffeine, I can't have alcohol, like I gotta have something.
Well, to me, alcohol is also like coffee in that I really don't like it that much without sugar. Like,
oh, really?
Like, yeah, for me, it's like when I was drinking for that 8 days, like in a row, I wasn't just like,
yeah, what were you drinking?
I wasn't,
Wine?
no. I wasn't pouring like what I should have been doing even if I was doing that was doing what I very rarely do, which is just like some sort of like liquor on the rocks a little bit or like something simple. No, I was like making myself like 2 or 3 margaritas a night. I'm drinking gin and tonics, which like I didn't realize
Tonic has a lot of sugar.
Tonic has a lot of fucking sugar in it. And most tonic you buy is like high fructose corn syrup sugar. Yeah. It's like, and I'm like, making mixed drinks and all this kind of stuff. And then, I enjoyed it because I've always been such a brutal lightweight with alcohol, and my family are like, most of them are all like drinkers. Just terrible drinkers. And I always felt like a little bitch who like couldn't keep up. And so a little bit of me, I was like, look at me, like I can finally drink. Yeah. But then I looked at myself.
Like margaritas.
I looked at myself in the mirror after a month and was like, you look not as good.
Yeah.
You literally look not as healthy.
Oh my God. I see videos of myself during the pandemic and my face just looks swollen. And it's like, yeah, you're drinking every day.
Right.
Substantial amounts. And then wondering why you looked like that. What's going on? Yeah. But I think, for me, I let myself test the waters, and I'm glad that I did. I figured out like what I'm capable of and what my limits are and where my boundaries are. And also it feels good to be like, yeah, I can take time off. Cause sometimes it felt like I was out of control of it, but it's only cause I just never tried. And then when I was like, yeah, I'm not going to drink for this month, and I didn't, I was like, see, I can do that. Even with the weed, it feels like I'm more in control now. I'm like, exactly. I can put this away at any point.
It's not going to kill me. Yeah.
But also there's some things that arrive in my life where I can't be doing that. Like when I took on the TV show and I'm having this very intellectually challenging job all of a sudden, I can't be like, oh, and you think that smoking weed would be great for joke writing. It's not.
No.
It has some value in it in some places, but when I have to hit, a quota of like so many jokes a day in this time frame, if I smoke weed and do that, it's going to take me 18 hours.
Yeah. Well, and I've always subscribed to what they often call the Carlin method, because he would write jokes sober and then he would punch them up stoned.
Yes, that's the way to do it.
And that if you're going to use weed for comedy and for writing in general, it is a second draft intoxicant. Yeah. I really think. I
work the other way where I'm high, that gives, or have a few drinks, and that'll give me the idea. I just word vomit it out somehow or record it. Then when I'm sober, I go back and I go, Jesus Christ, okay, what was this? And then I clean it up.
This is monkey hammer.
Yeah. What is that? Or sometimes I'm like, God, that's fucking brilliant. And so it does open up new like neural pathways and stuff like that too.
I used to do that in, when I was directing theater. I tried really hard to not be high in rehearsals because I was trying to connect with other people, and it's not always great with present, that. Yeah. And be there with what's happening and not just be like, man, cool. That fucking table's red as fuck. But I would always, and I did this for years, especially when I was much younger and weed was much newer to me, I would always go to like the last week where we had like final dress rehearsals and we were just like running the show every night, and I'm giving notes, but we're running it end to end and I'm not stopping and engaging with them. I would have my AD, I would tell only him or her, and I would be like, tonight I'm going to get fucking blasted. And I'm going to watch the show and give you notes, like sit next to me. Please don't tell everyone I'm fucking high. If they figure it out, cool, it's fine. But like, I want to get another take on it. I just want to have a different viewpoint. And I would inevitably, and why I kept doing it was I would find new shit. Yeah. I would be like, oh, this whole scene's about something else. Yeah. And I didn't even realize that until I like stopped staring at it with the same 2 eyeballs every single day. And I, made those eyeballs a little red, and I found it was like a little more.
That helps. It's funny how it helps. I'm really excited to go smoke when I get back, actually, because I'm going to Korean barbecue tonight.
So am I.
Dude, are we the same fucking person?
I know, it's a lot. Where are you going?
Jujuku.
I'm going to Agashi.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What is that, Wilshire and...
I think. I don't remember.
Oh, shit.
My wife always plugs in the GPS.
But yeah, isn't that great? My friend has a show tonight, and I'm going to meet up with them beforehand and get some Korean barbecue. So I'm going to get...
I'm so bummed I'm not getting high first. I'm like, legit.
Sorry, I didn't mean to rub that in.
No, it's good. It's good. It's still a lot of meat, which is my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this.
Of course.
Again.
Thanks for having me.
And just letting me know all the ways that we are on a very similar path. And
Totally.
And truly, just to really wrap it out with a sincere moment, because this is crucial to me, and this just keeps coming up as I'm doing the new season of the show. I really want to express my gratitude to you about sharing this vulnerable shit, because it is just as easy for those of us that are in entertainment and arts and stuff like that to just keep these stories to ourselves. And to anyone watching, you don't have to fucking tell everybody what's going on, you know, keep it in a journal, tell your therapist, do whatever you want to do. But I really appreciate the people who are willing to share these stories of transition, of second guessing, of, you know, figuring out what the fuck and why we're doing all of this. Because like I said, at school, it's just not something that they bang us over the head with. It's more about keep working. The harder you work, it will be fruitful.
Right.
They don't express like, what do you do when that is not exactly how it goes?
Yeah, and there's definitely more to it.
There's so much more to it. And thank you for sharing what you did with us and with everybody. And I hope that it resonates with the people who listen to this. And if anybody is going through the same kind of shit. And if you're having, you know, if you're having serious issues with substances, that this is not the podcast for you to find answers to that.
Yeah.
But if you find yourself in the middle where you're like, I don't feel like I have like an addiction that's crippling my life, but I'm curious if I have this dependency.
Yeah.
Take a month off.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt you. It'll save you a little bit of money. You might feel a little better healthy wise.
Yeah.
And, you know, you'll find out.
How do you know?
Yeah.
You know, how do you know if you don't have a baseline?
Exactly.
So I think it's good from that standpoint as well. You know, see who you are
without it
for a little bit.
Yeah. It'll be there when you get back.
It'll be there.
It's been there forever.
Yeah. I'm going back to it. It's, you know, I got to post a video about that soon. But yeah, anyway, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me. And, you know, hopefully I'll have like some results here to share the next time I'm here. Like, hey, look, at that time I was going through all this shit and now I just got my Netflix special and, you know, and it all worked out. You know, hopefully the next time I'm on here, I'll have something a little bit to show for
started doing 8 sets a night.
Yeah, I went back out there and I just hit the pavement again. God.
Thank you.
No
Thank you
worries,
so
man.
much.
Thank you.
It was awesome.